But that's why it's so hard when somebody has a very high level of self-belief and they tell you to face your fears. They don't really know what they're talking about. Yeah, they don't know what it's like to have that. If you've had 10 out of 10 self-belief, the last thing you're afraid of is failure. You're afraid of success.
If self-doubt is the issue, it's almost, that's all you have to focus on overcoming. It's just get yourself to show up enough times to where you actually get better. Whereas for me, that doesn't resonate because that's not the fear. If anything, I need more self-doubt so I prep better.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1865, the 4-step fear cycle to overcome any fear and be the most courageous, brave human being that has ever walked the face of the earth and never be afraid again of anything, and then to conquer everything. That's
Nice.
today's episode. I couldn't fit all that in the title, so we shortened it. Alan wanted to start with some gratitude before we start today's episode, so I'm going to kick it to Alan quickly.
Every time I go on another podcast, I was on 2 earlier, awesome. I always say I want to start with gratitude, I want to end with gratitude, and I do every single time. I said, thank you for having me. At one point, this was a dream come true, and I just realized I don't do that enough with our listeners. Sorry. I really think we should, and so I'm just grateful for all of you being on this journey. There have been some reviews that have come through. I've had some listeners from a while ago reach out and reconnected with one person from book club from years back, and it's just been awesome. So I'm really grateful you're all on this growth journey with us. It is a dream come true to help people reach their potential, and I never want to lose sight of that no matter how challenging the climb gets, because every time you reach a peak, there's another peak that's higher and harder to climb, and then there's another peak, a next level, one would say.
Some would say, some could say.
And so I'm grateful.
Well, I second that. It was Alan's idea. He said, hey, I want to start with gratitude, so I didn't want to jump on the train and just do it and then say, Alan, you go now after I'm done. I feel exactly the same way. I've had the pleasure and privilege of connecting with a lot of NLU family members that I haven't talked to in a long time, and it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. I think for a time we lost sight of that, if I'm being honest and transparent.
Yeah, why we started. It's easy to lose sight of why you start. I don't think we lost sight of why we started, but we did. We
didn't do it as much.
Yeah, we neglected the listeners a little bit unintentionally because we got so damn busy, man.
I told Taryn this last night. So last night was group coaching. So yesterday was a 13-hour day. Group coaching finished. I had a call with Amy. Alan had a coaching call. So Amy and I we did the post group coaching call. It's most important win, most important improvement. What's going on? What'd you think? How terrible did you think it was? How great did you think it was? Where are we today? And then after that, somebody from group coaching messaged me and they asked me a question. And I just didn't want to stop adding value. I told Taryn, I was like, this is how I know I'm doing the right thing, because I'm the most fulfilled when I'm adding value. And I don't care that I worked all day. I don't care that my food's in the microwave. I don't care that my food's getting cold. I genuinely just don't care. I want to add value to this person. That's what it is. That's what it's about. That's why we started. So I feel that deeply.
I had 2 individuals from group coaching reach out via audio message yesterday too. So it's just great. It's great to have the feedback. So keep it up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, seriously. And thank you for listening. And if you are listening and you've never reached out, I want to encourage that, because we're not just 2 people on a microphone. We're here to connect. So yeah, please reach out. 100%. Even if it's just hello, what's happening? Slip into our DMs on IG.
You could say hello, hey, how you dern? You could say something like that if you so choose. If that's
hey, I appreciate your insights far more than Kevin's.
You could say
whatever,
that. I doubt that.
Whatever you want.
That's
whatever
I would second that, though. I think you have more powerful insights than I do. I think I am better at everything than you are.
Everything.
Most everything, yeah.
That's bold.
Bold.
That's a bold statement.
I don't know why
that
you
took
and I are
courage
just.
to say.
I'm very courageous today. This is the first time Alan and I have talked today, so that's why we're just like, hey, let's check. How you doing, man? What's new? How's the fam? How are you doing? How has your sleep been? All right.
How are the cats?
I was journaling yesterday. This is where this episode comes from. And again, this isn't a go buy the Dreamliner. I mean, go buy it if you want it, but this is genuinely how the process works, so I just wanted to share it. All right, yesterday's question in the Dreamliner was, fear is meant to keep you away from danger, not your dreams. What is your relationship with fear? Do you allow fear to scare you away or drive you to become more courageous? And I wrote some stuff, and then I wrote this. I wrote, for me, fear is kind of like this. And this is the 4 steps. 1, survive the experience. So let's say it's speaking in front of somebody that you care about. Let's say it's public speaking, whatever. Actually stepping up.
Here's a good one.
Hit me
Having
with
to
it.
do a speech at a wedding. Are you going to have to do a speech?
I am.
Yeah. Are you
And
ready?
you better believe. No, I told Taryn, I said, this is the most nervous I've ever been for any speech.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Not because of the amount of people, it's because of the specificity of the people.
Get it on video.
I'm sure
I
we
want
will.
to see it.
I'm sure we will.
Have
All right.
Taryn record that bad, Larry.
I will. I'll be so hammered I probably won't even remember it. Just kidding. You don't get drunk before a best man speech. That is a sin. All right, 1, survive. You actually have to do the thing and prove to yourself that it is not deadly to get that far outside of your comfort zone. So 1 is just, it's almost like if it's your first time cooking, don't worry about if it's burnt. Don't worry about if it's cooked perfectly. Don't worry about if the portions are right. Don't worry about if the sauce is thick enough. You just have to survive the experience. That's the first part. 2 is actually get to the point where hopefully you can experience it and feel it. One of the things I've noticed, Alan, we were talking about this on a podcast I was on the other day. I was talking about it with a host. He said, how did you get more comfortable speaking? And at what point did you realize you should just be yourself on stage? And I said, yeah, it's a great question. I said, after I got hijacked emotionally so many times and I just forgot where I was and what I was doing. Like when I got to the place where I could actually be present, even though I was nervous, that's when I realized I could just be myself. And that's what I'm talking about with the experience and actually feeling it. I'm saying you have to try to get to the point where you feel present. Even if it's presently nervous, even if it's presently terrified, just experience what it's like to be in the moment. That's number 2. Number 3 might be my favorite word, and the next word I get tattooed on my forehead, reflect. Reflect. So you've survived it. You experienced it. You felt it. You were present. Now, it doesn't have to be immediately after, but at some point, I would say when the emotions are relatively high, I think it is very beneficial to reflect on the whole experience. Because number 4 is lock in the proof. So imagine this. Imagine you're so afraid, let's just say, to do the best man speech. You're so afraid to do it. And you're counting down the days until it comes, and you're catastrophizing, and you're ruminating, and you think it's going to go terribly wrong, and oh my goodness. The moment comes, you get that giant leap of courage, that giant dose of courage that you need. You step up, even though your heart's beating through your chest and you're sweating, and you just say, okay, I'm here, and I'm going to survive this. Okay, boom. Second piece is you try to achieve presence during it. That one I think is probably the hardest. Easier said than done. There's a equation for flow in there somewhere, and it's hard if you're too far outside of your comfort zone. But in an ideal world, you'd be able to get to the point where you could actually feel what you were doing and be present in your own body. And, okay, yeah, no, people are laughing. Okay, good. This is working. People are laughing. Versus just powering through the whole thing and then saying, all right, shit, we're done. Awesome. Getting to the point where you can actually pull the strings on what's happening is an ideal situation. 3, reflect. Whether it's later that night, you're thinking, okay, maybe that went better than I expected. What would I have changed? Maybe it's the next morning. Maybe it's a week later, whatever it is. And then 4 is lock in the proof. When you're locking in the proof, ultimately you're saying, A, that either went better or worse than I thought. B, I was either more nervous or less nervous than I thought. And then these are the things that I can adjust based on this experience. Essentially, that is what I have done over the last 7 years in a nutshell when it comes to facing fears. I would say maybe the fear of flying one is probably the best one. The first time I flew since I was a kid, I flew to England, and I was terrified. I was so nervous. Then on the way home, my buddy I went with booked the wrong flight for himself, so I had to fly home from England by myself, and I was pooping kittens. But the more I flew, the more I realized all I have to do is get on the plane. Once I'm on the plane, it's out of my control. That's the thing. That's the survive. Let me just survive getting on the plane. And then as I flew more and more and more and more, I became less and less and less afraid. To the point where I'm excited to fly now. I still have moments where it's like, what the freak was that noise? Anybody else hear that noise? Is the engine powering down? Is everything good? Anybody else look nervous? No, everybody looks good. Okay, cool, we're good. I still have those moments, but it's way less than it's ever been.
I just thought of a joke. Hey, if one of the engines goes, how far do you think the other one will take us? Right to the scene of the crash.
No, you can fly
Which
with
is
one.
fortunate, because that's where we're headed.
You can fly with one.
No, I know. I'm only joking.
Well, I don't want anybody out there, anybody who's afraid of flying, to think if you lose an engine, I've done the research. You're good.
Yeah,
That's why they got two of those bad Larrys.
Planes very rarely crash. There's statistics help, I think.
Well, you like statistics. I like 4-step processes. I guess. What's your take on all this? Because you're weird with fear.
Well, I did have a moment. You mentioned this in group coaching yesterday. You said, I think we taught the Drive to 5. So the Drive to 5 is people who are 0 struggle with self-doubt. People who are 10 are overconfident. And the overconfident people think they don't need to prepare. The underconfident people struggle to take the thing, do the action. So the best man speech would be a good example. So if you allow self-doubt to win, you won't do it. You'll say, I can't do this, man. I'm sorry. I can't do this. You got to get someone else. If you're overconfident, you won't prep and you'll bomb. And that's not smart either. I've been there. So Drive to 5 is confident but humble. Humble enough to prep, but confident enough to do it. And everything is the Drive to 5. We are convinced. However, you mentioned yesterday, I think I'm a little over right now, because we had everyone rate themselves from 0 to 10 where they're at. And you said I'm a little over right now, probably because I'm a little fearful, but I still need to perform. And I had this moment when you were talking where I was like, that's what's ego. That's what ego is. When someone's pretending not to be afraid when they are. I think that's ego.
Can I throw a wrinkle in?
Of course.
I think one of the reasons I was over is because you were under.
That's not a wrinkle. That's you had to lead or perform because I was under.
A wrinkle in the story. Yeah,
Oh.
I think that was a piece of it. Is
A wrinkle means, to me, you're breaking my theory. You're
Is that what it
giving
means?
me disconfirming evidence. You know how people say, well, there's an exception to every rule. Well, no, there isn't. That's what makes it a rule.
Oh.
But that's me being a math weirdo. So I was under by a little bit. And you were over to compensate because together we have to be at 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's been happening in this journey. It's going to be, in 2025, it'll be March of 2025, it'll be 8 years.
I don't see. Here's the thing. Some math it just seems like it should be super simple. When it comes to counting years from a specific date, to me, it's like another language.
2017 to 2018, 2018 to 2019, 2019 to 2020, 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023, 2023 to 2024, 2024 to 2025. Yeah, so it'll be 8 years. I'm going to start saying 8 years. I round up, son. All right, it's going to be 8 years in March of 2025, which is coming up in 2 quarters, all right? Here's my point. For the last almost 8 years, you and I was overconfident, you were self-doubt, and then we drove to 5, drove to 5, drove to 5, drove to 5. Sometimes we flipped for very short times. Sometimes you got a little arrogant, and I got, started with self-doubt when it comes to certain things. And then we flip back quickly. We all have a home. NLU listener, what is happening? I just wanted to jump in here and let you know, if you want to get to the next level faster, we have a free virtual monthly meetup at the first Thursday of every month. You can connect with like-minded people and become a bigger part of this amazing global community. The link to register will be in the show notes. So what's my point with this cycle? The fear that you're describing, that you start with, it takes humility to admit that you're afraid. One of the things that really messed with me, I'm not afraid of planes, dude. I'm not afraid of giving a speech. What I needed to realize is I'm not afraid of the same thing. Like, I don't doubt whether or not I can do it, but I am afraid of being disliked. So it's almost like I wouldn't be afraid up until the speech, and then I'd go, oh no, this is going to be terrible because I'm going to be disliked. But I wasn't aware that that was a fear that I had, so I didn't prepare for that in a way. And so you were not afraid, giving the best man speech, you're not afraid to be disliked, are you?
I don't know. There's a piece of me that's like, gosh, I don't want to be speaker Kev. I want to be best friend Kev.
Are you afraid to be disliked? Pointed question.
I would say more than usual because people aren't going to be rating my speaking skills. So yeah, I would say more than usual.
What's the biggest fear about it? And again, for the listeners or anyone watching or listening to this, I want you to think about your fears in your life. But right now, I want to come at Kev with this.
Bring it.
What? Huh?
I said, bring it, son.
Oh, okay.
What
are you the most fearful of?
Not doing a disservice. My deepest fear is me doing the speech and then after I do it, Matt saying, I wish he wasn't the best man. That.
Okay, well, what would that mean if he says that?
That I disappointed him.
And that would mean what?
I'm a failure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I playfully joked on a podcast earlier. I said, there are two types of people in life, people who are afraid and liars. And I didn't know how fearful I was because I wasn't afraid of what everyone else was saying they were afraid of. And I really hope this lands for our listeners because that cycle you're talking about still works, but it won't work until you admit what you're actually fearful of.
It's fair.
And the other piece of this too is, what was the first step in your cycle? It was admit the fear? No, it was...
Survive.
Okay. You going into this best man speech, we're going to keep using that as an example. If you feel the fear and then prep, the prep needs to be pointed toward the opposite of whatever the fear is. So so when you prep, you're not going to prep to be more articulate. You're going to prep to have it be more meaningful, right?
Yeah, get laughs.
Okay.
You want to get laughs. You want to create nostalgia. It's not the same thing.
Hook story lesson future pace.
Yeah, it's not hook story lesson future pace.
You're not going to teach anyone personal development, are you?
Here's the
maybe
5 steps.
Maybe a little something in there.
Maybe I'll try to slide it. I'll try to slide it. Try to
little moral lesson.
Throw it in there. Just one of the things that I'm going to say, I can't say it, but I know where I'm going to go with some of the stuff. Even though this is literally a year away. Now I'm already working on it.
You know why you're already working on it? Anxiety.
That's because that's my process. That's my process.
One of my favorite things about Inside Out too is it shows that anxiety has a purpose. Anxiety, if you let it take the garden, is not good. But if you should have a little bit of anxiety, enough to at least prep. Anxiety is essentially a part of you going, hey, man, this could go horribly wrong. And it probably won't if you worry enough to do something in advance about it. That has kept us alive. But it's also going to keep you from thriving if you don't do this cycle Kevin's mentioning.
Well, and here's the thing too. There's no piece of me that thinks this cycle is infallible and it's the best it can be. This was something I journaled and I said, honestly, that's what's worked for me. So I think that makes a valuable episode because I've had the opportunity and necessity to face most of my fears. I mean, think about it. My biggest fears were public speaking, being a failure, disappointing others, and flying.
And you've done all of those.
I do all those a lot. I don't fly a ton, but I do all the other ones a ton. I'm disappointing people regularly.
Do you think, so the 3 main fears, and I know we kind of got to go soon, I think we have 7 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
I was on a podcast earlier talking about this. They asked great questions. The 3 main fears that I have it boiled down to is fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success. So mine is fear of success, and I think it comes down to abandonment. The more successful I am, the more my peers might lash out get jealous, abandon, avoid, whatever, right? And I never realized that that was my fear. Father passed away, stepfather left, extended family. I lost a lot of love from a very young age, for lack of better phrasing. So fear of abandonment was big. And so if I shrink myself and stay small, I will be not avoided. And I'll be able to keep my friends. Goodwill Hunting's a great metaphor for that. Okay, enough about me. Fear of failure. I actually think it's fear of being seen as a failure more than it is fear of failure. But I don't really have a fear of being seen as a failure. As a matter of fact, me being seen as a failure actually helps my friendships. Oh, good. He finally lost. Awesome. I remember in video games, I would always win. And people would love when I would lose because I always won. So in board games too. And now I'm realizing, okay, no wonder why I'm not afraid of failure. I always get tons of praise when I lose. People get happy when I lose. Genuinely. You know how many people get pumped when I lose? The only person who isn't pumped when I lose is the person on my team.
Me.
That's serious. Like, I'm talking anything from Beirut, Can Jam, because I just was someone who won at a lot of things.
Or the last 7 years of this journey, I've been the partner for all of the failures.
Yeah.
I don't like them.
But honestly, if you weren't on my team, there might be a part of you that wants to see me lose because I win at so many things, right? So it doesn't matter. My point is, for someone who is afraid of failure, that is not me. Is it being fearful of being seen as a failure, or is it actually afraid of failure itself?
I think it's being seen as a failure and then realizing if you feel like you're seen as a failure, you won't try it again. For me, it almost turns it off. Now it's no longer an option. Like you sucked at this, you look really bad.
That's the real fear, is that the self-doubt will cripple you, right? Is that?
I would say that's accurate.
I was with someone earlier coaching, and I said, you're gonna do better than you think. You always do. You just can't let self-doubt stop you from trying. Yep. Now, if it were to go horribly wrong, hopefully she doesn't blame me because I'm the one who encouraged her to do it. And I don't think she will. She won't. And for you listening, I know that you won't. We've been through it for many years. But the point is, if self-doubt is the issue, that's all you have to focus on overcoming, is just get yourself to show up enough times to where you actually get better. Whereas for me, that doesn't resonate because that's not the fear.
I know.
If anything, I need more self-doubt so I prep better.
It's a very hard cycle because it's the thing that you're the most afraid of is the thing that you need to face the most. It's just that. If you're afraid to be a public speaker, the way to be less afraid is just to do speeches.
For me, I'm fearful of being hated. And that's all I have to keep facing. I'm just fearful of being hated and villainized and disliked and lashed out at. I'm not afraid of giving a bad speech. It doesn't resonate whatsoever. You want to know why? When I give a bad speech, I bet you people are pumped. Honestly, some people are pumped. Yeah, you're not because you're connected to me.
It's fair. It's fair. But that's why it's so hard when somebody has a very high level of self-belief and they tell you to face your fears. They don't really know what they're talking about.
They don't, because they don't fear the same thing.
Yeah, they don't know what it's like. They don't know. They don't know what it's like.
Agreed.
To have that. If you've had 10 out of 10 self-belief, the last thing you're afraid of is failure. You're afraid of success.
Yeah, 100%.
I never understood that.
You're not afraid of success. You're afraid of the social ostracization that comes from success.
Yeah.
You're afraid of being villainized for being better than.
Yeah.
That it has nothing to do with success.
Or the closet.
Success. I like success. I don't like the social challenges and pain that comes from being better than, or losing friends, or abandonment. Yeah. So it's always deeper than just fear of failure and fear of success. We got to do an episode on that at some point because
I'm in.
Awesome.
I'm in. One of the other things, and we don't have time to go deep, but we could do this in the other one, is I think one of the things for fear of success is if you have skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
If you've done some stuff that you're not proud of that's available. And again, I'm not saying I don't know what an example would be necessarily. I'm not saying you have a sex tape hidden in your closet somewhere or whatever. I'm not saying that. But if you have proverbial skeletons in the closet.
Than that. My fear is someone would make something up to tear me down.
Understandable.
Genuinely, that's an actual fear. And if they're going to do that, they're going to do that. there's nothing I can do about it except for just not be successful. So when you dig underneath this stuff, that would be the only takeaway I would have for this episode for everyone out there watching or listening. Gratitude. Thank you for being on this journey. You have to identify your core fear. Is it fear? Is it social courage that you need? Because social courage is, I'm going to go be successful, and even if someone makes stuff up about me, I'll know it's not true, and I'll just say, listen, that's not true. Right? Or is it your self-doubt? Is it crippling self-doubt? And it's not, there is a percentage of the population that does not struggle with self-doubt very much.
Yeah. I think it's a small percentage, right?
4% is what I think, based on the research of goals. And there's a lot of research about people who have written clear goals that actually achieve them. And I think people who struggle to believe in themselves obviously don't write their goals down and then don't achieve them. And it makes sense because they doubt. If you doubt it, and you don't have any certainty, why would you write it down? Because now you're not only seen as a failure, you're also seen, So this is really powerful. Just identify what your core fear is and then stare that thing in the face.
Make friends with your fears. That would be my takeaway. As much as you can. Again, you're not going to go from hating planes to flying a plane, most likely. It's probably not going to work that way. That's okay. It doesn't have to go that way. It's just, are we moving in the right positive direction? That's it. That's why I'm on the frame now of progress is personal. Maybe you don't face your fears as much as I did, or as much as Alan did, or maybe you're facing your fears more than somebody else is. Whatever. It's progress is personal. Fear chasing is personal. All this stuff is personal. All right. If you are afraid of joining new groups, I would challenge you to join Next Level Nation. Number one, it's a warm place to fear chase, so I know it's not going to go wrong. Nothing is going to go horribly wrong, but it's also imperative and very important to get around people like you in your growth journey, and that is exactly what Next Level Nation is. We'll have the link in the show notes as always.
I had someone reach out to me yesterday or today. I got back to her today on Instagram, and she was a member of book club all those years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. I said, we miss you in book club. Book club has been happening for almost 4 years, 3 years and 7 months, I believe. We've read 18 books, all self-improvement, next level books with next level people. We hope that you join us. The registration link will be in the show notes. It'll email you. You can add it to your Google Calendar every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very, 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 very rarely do we move it, and if we do, you will get an email in advance about that.
As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.